we came home from that wedding, and Jack was acting really weird. I mean, really weird, like, get away from me kind of weird, you know, that kind. And we got talking in the car while we were when he talked to him, and he said, you know what? And he said, I don't think we're ready to be engaged yet. I said, oh, really? You know, out of the blue.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, what makes you think that? And he just said, I just don't think that we are ready to get married. He wouldn't give me any good answer. So I took the ring off and gave it to him back, and I said, that's fine. If you don't feel that you're ready, you're ready.
Good riddance to bad rubbish.
Take the ring. You know, I don't want it if you don't feel like you want to marry me and you had some, you know, misgivings.
What were you thinking at the time, Jack?
Well, tell him what happened.
I just saw my brother getting married, and it,
And your father, what did he say to you?
well, I don't remember what he said.
I remember what he told
What
me.
did he say?
He didn't tell me until after he married what his dad said. He said, Jack, you've always wanted to do exactly what Arlen wants to do. And you've always wanted, if Arlen got something, you've always wanted it. If Arlen does this, you always want to do it. And you're such good buddies. And he said, are you getting married just because Arlen's getting married?
Which you weren't.
No,
Well,
crap,
but
no.
it made him think,
Yeah,
you know, am I
don't-
doing this?
Sure.
I think
Because
I just got nervous
Yeah.
of the fact that I saw him getting married. I said, good age, do I want to get married?
Yeah.
You know, so
And so
I
he
wasn't
had,
that young.
yeah,
I was 22.
but he wasn't feeling good about it. So of course I didn't want to marry somebody. If he wasn't really sure he wanted to get married, no way. But at the same time, I wasn't going to be engaged either.
Right.
So I gave him the ring back.
So how do you salvage that?
Well, I'll tell you.
I
So,
almost got beat up by roommates.
so he left, of course, with the ring, and he left, and I went in the room and into the apartment.
By the way, my sweet girlfriend was ironing my shirts for me.
Yes.
Whenever I got too many shirts,
He
she
had
would
washed
say,
them.
let me iron them for you. So,
So I was ironing his shirts. Can you believe that I was
So,
doing that?
the next time I picked
Wait,
up
no,
my
I will
shirts,
tell this. Wait, I will tell this.
they were all sewn up. I couldn't even get over my head. Zip all the way down, sewn up.
The cuffs were sewn up, the pockets were sewn
My
up.
pants, the zipper was sewn up.
No,
No.
no, I just ironed his shirts. That's all I did.
I
I
know.
didn't do anything. And he would launder them, and I just ironed them. And he was so fussy. You know, I even had to starch things. I mean, I really worked on those shirts. And when he left, I guess he forgot I had about 12 shirts. And so I went in and and my roommates were always up. They'd wait until Darlene dated a lot, and I would come home, and then we had to tell them what happened. So they were there, and I was crying by the time I got in. I didn't let him see that I was crying, that I really felt bad, and that I was crying. Well, they were so mad at him for making me feel so bad. And I had ironed a dozen shirts, and they were hanging downstairs in the basement where we always did our laundry and that. And I didn't know what they'd done, but when I went to school next day, they didn't have class or something. Every one of those shirts were sewn up. I mean, buttoned down the front, on hangers. There was no way that he could have gotten in them.
No,
And they were so put out
it
with
took
him.
me forever to unstitch them
Yeah,
things.
but anyway, so I didn't see him for 2 or 3 days on campus somehow or another. I don't know how we didn't see each other, because we'd always had. But he was going to school, and I was going to school, but we just missed each other. You must have gone a different way, or something. Anyway, so it was over as far as I was concerned, and they were still so angry. And then one day I saw him, been almost a week.
So you were heartbroken.
I was heartbroken, but I still had his shirts, see, and he'd forgotten them. And, and I wondered, sometime he might want his shirts. But I didn't say anything, and I saw him walking one day. We were headed toward each other, and we stopped and talked a little bit, and you said something about, why don't we take a little ride, something like that. And I said, well, okay, let me get rid of my books, because I was close to my apartment. And I took my books in and everything, and my roommates were there. And, where are you going? I said, said, well, I'm just taking a little ride with Jack. Don't you dare do that, you know. I said, no, he wants to talk. So we took a ride, and he talked a long time. And we talked, and he decided that he really did want to get married. He really did. He'd had time to think about it, and wasn't doing it. And see, I didn't know about his dad and Art. I knew none of that. So he just said, I've been thinking about it. We are ready to get married. I'm ready to get married. You know, and I didn't know anything else but that. And so we talked a little while, and I said, well, shall we start dating again then, or what? And he said, what'd you say? We didn't get engaged right away, I know, re-engaged.
It was
Pretty soon.
a couple of days after
Yeah.
you took the ring back.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't take it back that day I had talked to you.
You were gonna
Did you
get-
try and give it back to her?
Well, I wanted to, but I could tell that she was, I had to court her a little bit before she's gonna take it back.
Right.
Yeah, and so, and then he said, when he took me home, after we had talked a while, he said, you know, I really need those shirts, did you iron them? I said, yeah, I ironed them, but I didn't know they'd done that. They were still hanging in the basement. I had never touched them. I had no idea. So we went in the apartment, and I went and got his shirts for him, and he took them by the hanger, you know, didn't look at them or anything. And I didn't worry about it. So I took them, went home, called me. I don't know, what was it that night? You
Yeah,
remember where
I
it was?
called you.
He said, what'd you do to my shirts? I said, I ironed your shirts. I didn't scorch them or anything. What'd you do to my shirts? I said, nothing. Because I didn't know my roommates had done that. And they were standing there laughing their heads off. And I finally looked at him. I said, what did you do to his shirts? Did you do something? And then they told me what they'd done. I mean, all 12 of them. It wasn't just one.
Yeah, they all.
It must have taken them hours
That's so
to
funny.
sew it where you couldn't even see. They were all buttoned,
Right.
you know. Well, he was pretty upset. And I didn't
Oh,
undo them. He
I
must have had to
didn't.
get a pair of scissors and undid them all.
That didn't bother me that bad because
Right.
I had been ornery to her, so.
Yeah.
So when I told him that it was my roommates that did it, it wasn't
And
me.
I liked the roommates and they liked me.
They really did like
Yeah.
him. But,
We were good
Yeah.
friends. I used to throw
But
them in the creek.
you know, we had a little ditch
Front of the
in
house,
front of the,
They'd come and they'd be giving me trouble and I'd grab them and throw them in the little creek.
and they loved that. So
They loved that.
they were really wanting a boyfriend, and they didn't have boyfriends.
Yeah, they got Elvis picking them up.
Yeah,
throwing in
yeah.
the creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that's what happened, and then we got re-engaged
Yeah.
and still kept our March wedding date.
Oh,
We
great,
hadn't changed that.
great.
Decided
We
us-
decided to get married.
Oh, I know how that happened too.
What?
Remember, you had to go to, you went to your ROTC. They called you in before we were married. His leader, whatever he was
Yeah.
called, I don't know. He knew that, by then, he knew Jack wasn't pilot material because of his eyes. And so they were getting rid of all of the ones that couldn't be pilots in that program. So he called you in and told you that you wouldn't be in ROTC anymore. So when you register for school the next semester or whatever, we're porters.
And once you're out of ROTC, then I
Then-
knew I was gonna have to go in the draft.
So
right
he
away.
told.
Yeah.
For
yeah,
what war?
That was
Korean.
Korean War.
Mhm. And so he told his instructor, whoever it was, that he was engaged and that we were going to get married in March. And he said, well, I will keep you on the records for one more quarter. If you want to go ahead and get married, then you'll have a little time with your wife, and then you'll have to go in as soon as that quarter's over.
Yeah.
That's great.
Since we had planned a wedding and, you know, his engagement was all set and everything. Because they would have drafted him immediately, would have been gone. So he did, and so that's why I went ahead with the wedding at that time, because we knew he was going to be drafted.
Jeez.
And we wanted to be married before he
How
went.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he never went. It was
Yeah.
interesting. The minute they got that he was released from ROTC, he had his notice to be somewhere in San Bernardino for his physical. I mean, that was just barely. We'd only been married a month or more when they was ready to give him a date to go. And he passed the physical, believe it or not, with his eyes, as bad as they were.
They didn't care.
They didn't
Army.
care.
Yeah.
Put it in there.
And so, meanwhile, we were married.
How about?
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
we were married and everything, and they said, be prepared to go, you're gonna go. And so but his records were in
They were in,
Barstow, or,
they were in LA, or San Bernardino County,
yeah, and we were still living in Salt Lake, so
so they shipped them to Salt
they
Lake.
shipped him here, because we were still going
And then
to school, and he was selling books and stuff. And so they shipped him there.
then we went,
Then they said, they gave you a date to appear or something, and then, anyway, when they had to send the records and everything where we were, then they gave you more time to report. And by the time we got back down to California to report and everything, his dad had the heart attack. And Arlen was already, let's see.
he was in the army in Germany.
That's right. He was on his mission. He and got married, and they drafted him immediately. And so he was still in the service. And if it looks like, if there's 2 boys in the army at that time, they wouldn't take the second one because he had to help with the family business. The family business, the clothing store, Lamar couldn't take care of it alone.
So they said, you can stay out until your brother's out.
Yeah, so
As
they
soon as your
said,
brother's out, you go
here
in.
you go in.
Right.
So we were
And
just
Arlen
waiting.
was going to be out in just a few months.
So when you first got married, you were living where then? In
We-
We
California?
rented a little apartment,
In Salt Lake.
In Salt Lake.
Yeah,
Kimball
after we were
Apartments.
through with school. He was
right
through with
across the
school.
street from the temple,
Uh-huh.
and up the street just a half a block.
And you didn't, I remember you telling me the other day when you were talking about the wedding presents you got. You got Jell-O molds, but no cutlery.
Yeah,
Didn't have
nothing to
any.
eat with. Yeah, and so that's what we did.
Yeah.
And he sold books, and then when he had to go back down and everything, anyway, by the time Arlen was out, his dad had that really bad heart attack. And so Jack really had to help with the store then, and they wouldn't draft him because of the fact that he was the only son old enough to continue helping until Arlen got back.
That's great.
The time Arlen
Lucky.
got back, Evie was pregnant. That was
Yeah,
about a year or
yeah.
year and a half later.
Jack, yeah. He was still in, for so long, but Jack was still 1A.
That's
He'd
so
had to
lucky.
go, but by then, the Korean War was over by then, and they had made you 3A or something, because I was expecting young Jack by then, and he was still having to do the store. And Arlen came back and had a brain tumor
Oh.
and didn't help anybody.
Mhm.
They'd had a child. He had been stationed in,
How
Where
many
is that?
years were we married before you got pregnant?
a long time. We married the first part of 53, and young Jack wasn't born until the last of 56. So we were, didn't
I
get him
was just
really
trying to figure out
early.
when Arlen,
And
I
Arlen,
guess I was moving, selling books quite a bit in my records, because we went to Idaho, and the
Yeah.
records had to
He
be
was-
sent from California
this
to
was
Idaho.
before your dad got sick.
Yeah, so there was a year and a
Yeah.
half there that I didn't.
Well, I don't know why they kept sending his records to him wherever he was, knowing that he was ready to be drafted and should have been drafted. But then, all at once, here his dad had that heart attack. And Jack had really planned on going. It wasn't he was not planning on it. And in fact, we were decided that,
Is that thing still working?
yes, it
Yeah.
is. All of this is on tape.
So, to go back, you had to plan a wedding within a few weeks.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we had planned it for March, and then when I took the ring back and